Il Signore sia con voi. Dal Vangelo secondo Giovanni. In quel tempo Gesù si manifestò di nuovo ai discepoli sul mare di Tiberiade e si manifestò così. Si trovavano insieme Simon Pietro, Tommaso, detto Didimo,
Jesus revealed himself again to his disciples at the Sea of Tiberias. He revealed himself in this way. Together were Simon Peter, Thomas called Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, Zebedee's sons, and two other disciples. Simon Peter said to them, "I am going fishing." They said to him, "We also will come with you." So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. When it was already dawn, Jesus was standing on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, "Children, have you caught anything to eat?" They answered him, "No." So he said to them, "Cast the net over the right side of the boat, and you will find something." So they cast it, and they were not able to pull it in because of the number of fish. So the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he tucked in his garment, for he was lightly clad, and jumped into the sea. The other disciples came in the boat, for they were not far from shore, only about 100 yards, dragging the net with the fish with them. When they climbed out on shore, they saw a charcoal fire with fish on it and bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish you have just caught." So Peter went over and dragged the net ashore, full of 153 large fish. Even though there were so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come, have breakfast." And none of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" because they realized it was the Lord. Jesus came over and took the bread and gave it to them, and in like manner the fish. This was now the third time Jesus was revealed to his disciples after being raised from the dead.
Parola del Signore.
Our Holy Father will now give us his homily.
I discepoli erano pescatori.
The disciples were fishermen.
Gesù li aveva chiamato proprio
Jesus had called them specifically
nel lavoro.
while they were working.
Andrea e Pietro
Andrew and Peter
lavorando con le reti.
were working with their nets.
Lasciarono le reti e
They
seguirono
left
Gesù.
their nets and followed Jesus.
Giovanni e Giacomo lo stesso.
John and James, the same. They left their father and their co-workers
Seguirono Gesù.
and followed
La
Jesus.
chiamata è stata proprio nel loro mestiere.
They received their call precisely while they were doing their work as fishermen.
E questo passo del Vangelo di
In
oggi,
this
questo
passage
miracolo
from
della
today's
pesca-
Gospel,
della pesca miracolosa,
the miraculous catch of fish
fa pensare all'altra
makes us
pesca miracolosa,
think about the other miraculous catch,
quella che racconta Luca,
that which Luke tells us about.
Capitolo 4, credo.
I think it's in the 4th chapter.
Anche lì è successo lo
There
stesso.
too, the same thing happened.
Hanno avuto una pesca quando loro pensavano di non averne.
They were able to catch something when they didn't think that they were going to be able to catch anything. After Jesus had preached, he told them to go out, and they told him, we worked the whole night and we weren't able to catch anything. And Jesus said, go on out. And Peter says, on your word, we will cast out the nets. And there was such a quantity of fish. The Gospel tells us that they were filled with amazement at that miracle. Today in this other catch of fish, they don't talk about amazement. There's a certain naturalness. We can see that there was some progress. They had been on a journey of knowing the Lord, of intimacy with the Lord. The right word would be they had grown in familiarity with the Lord. When John sees this, he says to Peter, oh, it's the Lord. And Peter tucks his garment in and jumps into the sea in order to go to the Lord. The first time, he knelt before the Lord and said, go away from me, Lord, because I'm a sinner. This time, he doesn't say anything. It had become natural. Nobody asked who he was because they knew it was the Lord. It had become natural, these encounters with the Lord. The familiarity of the apostles with the Lord had grown. Even we Christians, we too Christians, in our own journey, in our own life's journey, we are in this state of progressing in familiarity with the Lord. The Lord, I might say, takes us by hand because he walks with us. We know that it's him, and no one asked him here, who are you, because they knew it was the Lord. A familiarity, a daily familiarity with the Lord is that of the Christian. And certainly, they ate breakfast together with bread and fish. They certainly spoke about many things very naturally. This familiarity with the Lord, this Christian familiarity with the Lord, is always communitarian. Yes, it's intimate and personal, but it's in community. It's a familiarity without community, a familiarity without bread, a familiarity without the church, without the people, without the sacraments, is dangerous. It can become a familiarity, let's say, agnostic, a familiarity separated or detached from the people of God. The word was, I think, Gnostic, not agnostic before. Familiarity with the Lord always happens at table. This is the sign of the community, always with the sacraments, with the bread. I say this because someone made me think about the danger that this moment that we're living, this pandemic, has done that all of us communicate, even religiously, through the means of communication, Even this Mass, we're all communicating, but we're not together, spiritually together. The people gathered are few, but there's a great people. We're together, but we're not together. Even the Blessed Sacrament, today you will receive it. He's pointing to the people in front of him. But the people who are connected with us, they only have the spiritual communion. This is not the church. This is a church of a difficult situation that the Lord is allowing, but the ideal of the church is with the people and with the sacraments, always. Before Easter, when the news had gone out that I was going to celebrate Easter in St. Peter's Basilica, empty, a bishop wrote. He's a good bishop. And he rebuked me. But why don't you put at least 30 people? St. Peter's is so big, at least so people can see people. Isn't it going to be? Isn't there a danger? And I thought, what does this one have in head to tell me this? I didn't understand at that moment. But because he's a good bishop and he's very close to his people, he had something that he wants to tell me, and so when I see him, I'll ask him, and then I understood. He was telling me, be careful not to virtualize or viralize the church, the sacraments, to not viralize, to not let these things go viral. The people of God, the sacraments are concrete. Yes, it's true that in this moment we need to provide this familiarity with the Lord in this way, but in order to get out of the tunnel, not in order to remain this way. And this was the familiarity of the apostles. It wasn't Gnostic, it wasn't viralized, it wasn't concentrated only on themselves. It was a concrete familiarity among the people, a familiarity with the people familiarity with Jesus in everyday life, familiarity with Jesus in the sacraments, among the people of God, in the midst of the people of God. They had been on a journey of progress in their familiarity with the Lord. Let us learn how to do this as well. From the first moment, they had understood that familiarity was different than that which they had imagined. And they had arrived here. They knew that the Lord shared everything. The community is a sacrament. The Lord is peace and our feast. May the Lord teach us this intimacy with Him, this familiarity with Him, but in the church, with the sacraments, with the holy, faithful people of God.